All right. Interesting morning. So I just want to review this because this is the trade I took this morning. Was we were in a range here and then we broke out, retested, and I think like my trade was literally that of this move. But that kind of shows you the potential and the power of trading the trend instead of the mean reversion model. It's cool to see. It's interesting. So there's a lot of potential there. You know, my target was like that. But I put my stop to break even too soon. Actually, hang on. I didn't. No, my whole trade was in here. Look. Sorry, I got my times all mixed up. So that didn't even turn into the break. So the 1 to 2 was perfect for that. Because we traded back into the value area. And then as soon as we broke these sell HVNs, we were back in the range. Later on, we had that's a really nice clean trade. I wasn't working then, so I wasn't there for it. So I wouldn't say there's a trade here for now for me. And I'll focus on NAS. So gonna start with the daily. Just what I like to do is I like to mark out previous daily high, previous daily low, because often good targets if we end up trending. And then we've got that's a big gap. Previous day's candle was bearish. That's what I will say, and I will move on. Okay. So here's our massive gap. It's not even a low volume node, it's a no volume node. There's still this one here as well. And yeah, okay. So where we're at here, I'm sure there's a low volume node in here that I can get more accurately. We've got one here. I can definitely look at this range and say that we're kind of game for a buy. Because if this is the value area, we're looking at a mean reversion here that could break out into a long a trending position. From what I can see on the CVD, the delta is. We found some big buys. Let's have a look. We've tapped this LVN, which kind of needed to happen. Man, that is, yeah, perfectly, really. What are we looking at on the splash? On the daily, we've got a breakout of the range and then a retest here, but because of this low volume node, it's invalid. We've got a low volume node here as well, low volume node here. So we could definitely. I'm not going to look at. I don't want euro now. Yeah, I mean, I think this was a valid mean reversion trade. Definitely going for point of control or even the higher the range. But I can be wrong, because we haven't really let the session develop yet. Or commit to anything. We've got this range, we've got a break of the high, break of the low. Which is kind of potentially just telling us nothing. Where are the big sells? Let's have a look on daily. I'm just having a look on my profiles on MetaTrader because I find them more accurate there than here. So yeah, we've got so we had some big sales that are now getting wrecked in this low. We had some big sales in that low. Yeah, so the shorts in here are getting squeezed like nobody's business. Because they're the only big orders so far. For me, we've kind of left the value area. We've come back in. So now longs are the only kind of valid option. Because these are big buys in here. See that I'm not in this, but that would have been an interesting position. I was kind of a bit late to sitting down. But there are no big orders in here. Not a lot of volume at all, really. And then there's some big sales in here. Couple of buys in here. But nowhere near as big as the sales. So really, I'm holding out for this high. Before there's anything for me to do, or this low. But to be honest, that was that was probably it. What have we got? So we've got a previous daily high, which is also, is that the all-time high? Yeah, up here. And that low volume node there. So yeah, so if we do break above here, then if we do break above here, we're then looking for a break of the high of the range and a retest and then continuation, which is fine, but obviously you've got this low volume node here, which kind of adds risk because you can get your break and retest and like price will probably be floating like right beneath the low volume node, which can obviously cause quite a big reaction. If you have a big order in a low volume node, then you're gonna see a big move in whichever direction. So it's not a lot of room. I like to see a bit more room in order to create a valid setup that's safe, that has a decent risk to reward ratio. We have got a little buy bubble in here. But it is small. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens here, because now we've come into this low volume node here, this big one. If we reject here and continue down, or find more aggressive buyers that then take us further down, that'll be interesting, because then you've got a valid short, because you've got the break of the value area and then you've got a continuation or aggressive sellers returning to protect their sells that are underwater here. Doesn't look like it, does it? Too much buying. Yes, it's a nice trade. That was a nice trade too. I'm pleased with the trade this morning, because I didn't have long, and we did have a range here, and the value area was like this, and it made quite a big low volume node, but I still got in with a big trade, sell supporting for a 1 to 2. But yeah, it's interesting. It's good to see the whole, like, the mechanic play out properly here, instead of just a kind of fake out and then back in the range. And here now we've closed on a 5-minute candle right in the value area, so there is no valid sell now, really, unless things are shaken up quite a lot. What we're really looking for is as I say, we're looking for a break of the high. Let's have a look at this structure here. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's this level, isn't it? This that level. So I'm going to set an alert. I'm not sure, I'm not sure what to do about this. Yeah. So there's some big volume in there. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of just running now. No, there's another low volume node there, but again, we've come right back into the value area with obviously this profile here that I've put on this range here, which is the range that the Open has created so far, or the start of the New York session. Like, I look at that and I'm kind of thinking, well, none of that is a balance. There is no balance there. That's not a balanced range. So that's not. Yeah, literally, we've done nothing. We've consolidated the whole morning, gone up, and broken those highs, gone down, broken the lows, and now we're back in the middle. Yeah, I still need to see this level or the high or the low break now. Right, I'm gonna get my sausage rolls out. All right. I'm back. Been back a little while. I just didn't turn the mic on. I tried my sausage roll and it was horrendous. It was very. I the pastry didn't go well, and the egg wash was more of an omelette. Anyway, where we are is in balance. That's not a chicken. That's my wife. Yeah. So we're still in the value area. We had a range through London overnight, Asia and London. Broke down. Really common pattern for the NAS. When we did break, when we did come down here to this low, that was at the time breaking the value area. Of this range that you can see on the left. Well, you can see that it is still. So we had a break of the value area low, and then we came back in, closed inside, and that normally means bullish for the rest. But we'll see. We could well stay within this range for the rest of the day. It is a Friday, so it could be that we're pretty much just gonna hang out. But you never know. Just looking at the daily candles, we've got a big old gap here. So I think it would be quite interesting to see that filled, but obviously we've already had our aggressive sales that have been stopped pretty quickly, and those are the biggest trades we've had today so far. We've had almost nothing else that's of any real significance in comparison. So yeah, I'm watching. We've got this green box here. This is my opening 5-minute candle. Then I've got, this is the range that was created before the open, or in time for the open. And then you see my purple, my orange boxes are low volume nodes. These kind of turquoise faint boxes are the top and bottom of the range, and this one corresponds with some other highs further over here, this area, with another low volume node up here. So it'd be interesting if we break this high, because then we're outside of the value area. We've broken above the value area. We have the opportunity potentially to retrace into a low volume node and then take a long into the high or this low volume node, depending on how things look at the time. And trading based on volume profile like this it's really interesting, and it makes a lot of sense, but it also means that you can't kind of you can't pick a range and then set alerts for the edges of the range and kind of say, well, I'll look at the charts when this happens, because what you tend to find happens is that the range that's dictated by the volume profile shifts and changes and moves throughout the session. So the levels that you decide are valid or valuable at the time you're choosing to look at the charts inevitably just kind of become irrelevant or vary because the profile shifts. And a lot of the time I have the rule of you break the value area low and then you look for a low volume node and a retest of that, and then aggressive sellers or buyers aggressive sellers supporting your thesis for a short, and then you've got a valid setup. But what often happens is you'll get to a value area low or a value area high, and price will just kind of hang out, or it will just shuffle as if it's kind of like pushing the edge of the area further out rather than breaking it and then retesting it and moving with momentum. So for me at the moment, I'm practicing like making sure I can discern between the two. And I've got this anchor volume profile on the right starting at this move here that's created this range, because obviously that gives you a different value area to the range previous for the daily. This is a daily profile. And then on my MetaTrader, I've got the cluster delta, splash, and market profiles, so I can see where the big trades are, how big they are, and then on another tab within MetaTrader, I've got the bookmap and cumulative volume delta. But I reference those the least. Like sometimes I'll reference the bookmap for kind of relevant targets, or for looking for passive sells and buys, and whether they line up with aggressive sells and buys. The CVD isn't actually telling us much at the moment. The buys within this drop were significant. No, the sells in this drop were significant, and then the buys in this move were also. There's no divergences if you see what I mean. That's basically what I'm saying. The CVD chart is very similar. And there's a big gap in the sell volume on this side. On the CVD, I think Euro's just dumping. There was news though for Euro, so it makes sense. This was a really nice trade, as I said before. I'm just bummed I took this one, but missed this one, despite the fact that this one was, actually it was pre-London session really, so it wasn't the ideal time. Maybe this timing was better, but what time's that? 12:10. Yeah, I mean, I'm usually on break. And I come back about 2. So I'm not seeing any real big orders on Euro US dollar. There are some sells in here. So arguably you could, if you're feeling irresponsible, you could reverse that for although that's a terrible idea. Don't do that, because that is gambling, especially when you've got like low volume nodes here, there, and everywhere. Got this one, got this one. I mean, if there was an entry like for New York session, it was that really for a 1-2, expecting nothing but continuation, and really like that's a good trade. That would have made a lot of sense. No, I don't. Yeah. Low volume node. Makes sense. Makes sense for this. Yeah, you see, that was a nice trade, because obviously once you've well and truly broken the value area like that, got shot straight through it. This was the retest of the low volume node that gave you your opportunity for your entry, and that is the low volume node really. Maybe you'd have covered this candle like that, but that's still a 1-2 there. Be interested to see if it plays out, because this is again like here. Let's have a look actually, because we in the range. It's hard to tell, because obviously the value area is moving all the time, so I don't know what the value area looked like exactly at the when the bar replay kind of thing was back here. I think the value area would have been about here somewhere, which means that this entry would have made sense at the time. By this time you've already you've fallen a long way, but if you look at the big trades, they are well in support of this entry. So this was a good trade if I'd have seen it, if I'd have been there for it. Yeah, I like it. And you could be at break even by now on that as well, really. Again, tempting logic would be to go long here as well. Not that I'm going to, because it doesn't fit the model. It's not a model. It's just me going, well, there was these sellers got absorbed, buyers took over. This is the retracement into a low volume node with a response. We've got no big trades here though, and it's within the VA, and I mean, you could discuss that you could claim that there was validity from here for a buy when and if we break this. But again, it's within it's within the range next to the point of control. It's potentially a thing, but also not a high probability trade. Just because it could happen doesn't mean anything. This is hanging out now. Mind you, we've come down a long way. The reason I put this decision level here is because there are some cells in here that would get squeezed. But it looks way too bearish. So I wouldn't take it at this point when the value area is up here. This is a bearish trending day, full stop. I wouldn't take a buy unless we broke this low up here. And that'd be some going. I say I wouldn't take a buy. There wouldn't be a valid one. Man, this is a good trade. Even if it was just that, you'd have been a bit tight on the old stopperoo on that. Yeah. I would have still been in it because I wouldn't have played the stop that tight. I'd have been like that, and I would have stop here. And that would be good. Now for this, I can't see anything interesting. We're kind of mooching around this area, which is the point of control for this range here now. There are no massive buys in here. By far the biggest trades so far are these two sells. If we break all this though, that's a bearish trending day that I will trade. our level we're at now on the NAS is the only kind of we've gone straight through it. Was like a buy spike on the data profile, but we've sailed straight through it. See how tempting that was to go along there. So interesting. All right, so we've got something there that was substantial. Buys, I think. Yeah. It's not that big, to be fair. So we might have our bearish day after all. It'd be cool if we did. Because we've got the previous daily low, got I mean, to be fair, this is all low volume. So I think we could fall through it quite fast and go straight to this gap. So that's what I'd target. I would definitely target that gap. No. So we've now we've come back through the two massive sell orders. We're like at the level of them now, which is interesting. Yeah. So we've created a big low volume node though. Great. Low volume node. We're looking. Are we going to be cooking? Got a sell here. Again, I still need to see. I still need to see the break and then I'll sell stop the second drive, depending on how it looks, how it pans out. I've already put a potential stop 25950, which is just above this aggressive sell, because that's, you know, that's the logic. Got some aggressive buys on euro now coming in, which is interesting. I know. Only to be wrecked by a sell. Straight out. So yeah. I mean, the CVD on euro is a divergence. CVD is going up. We've got a trap sell here now that's quite big. I mean, they're only trapped if it obviously goes up here. If we break through, you know, here, then it's still invalid. And I don't know why I'm looking at it. Right. So we've got 5, 6, 2, 5, 9, 5, 7. On the edge of the value area of the new range. So I still want to see a Bosch down. Bosch. There are some good sells in here. There's like 3 of these. In there. Oh, crikey. That's a wick. Is someone not going to let it leave the range? Interesting candle. Holy moly. It was quite a big movement, wasn't it? But again, still in the range. That's why we want to see a break before, like, we want to see a decision from the market, a decision about what's actually, where the momentum is, what the direction is. And here there's a potential lock-in because there's you've got a buy and then a bigger sell right next to each other. So buyers are trying to step in here a little bit, but they're gonna, if they can't hold anything, they're just gonna end up helping it go lower, if that makes sense. Okay, that's a big wick. Big wick to do nothing. More buys. Okay. Still not broken the range. And I want the second drive, not the... Still not broken. So we have got some buys here that are just gonna, like, if they don't hold it, they'll create they'll create the squeeze itself. If we wick up here, low volume node there, that's no bad thing. So we're still holding the range for now. Is this really boring? I'm interested in how boring this is. See, the relative size of the buys is much, they're much smaller for the amount of movement they tend to create. Some imbalances here and here. Zero prints at the bottom. sellers there. No, that's a buy. Something that cluster data does on Splash is that you'll see a buy, and then you look away and you'll look back, and it's the opposite. So we're testing this low volume node. We've come to it. Interesting on Euro. We've got a few big-ish sells in here. So I want to see if sellers are aggressive in defending, in which case that's fine. If not, then we might see a bish bash bosh. I've seen quite a few like kind of V-shaped recoveries lately. No big sell orders so far. Where's 5-6? So we've got sell in there. So at the moment my stop would be like that. We'll see how it looks when it breaks, if it does break, because obviously you don't know until it's done. So we've also got there we go. What are we doing? So we could wick and run, so I'm going to try and and there's the squeeze. See, for me that's not committed enough. It's like a tiny little poke. Just to cover these, finish the auction. Is there a need to go any lower? I wouldn't call that really much of a first drive. Maybe it is. Maybe you could count it. In which case, there's your retest already. I'm not in anything here because there's nothing that's valid. I mean, or worth trading at this point. Price is kind of stopping at this low volume node, which is also where there's the biggest kind of sell delta spike. So, I mean, it'd be interesting if we reclaim the big buys that got squeezed here, because they're in there like bigger than this sell here. Right, where are we? Aggressive sell here. Immediately matched by even bigger buy. So buyers are trying to regain control. I think that's valid. I think that's fair. That's good. That's cool. I'm in this now. There was a sell stop I had right here. There's also a rather nice big order in here that I'm going to use to base my stop off of, because we've already revisited that other low volume node, so we're like that. We've got another big sell there at the moment. That's what you want to see at the start of your at the entry of your trade. Because when you see that immediately, that's because you've read what you think you've seen is what you've seen. Because we wanted to break out of the range, we waited for the break, and there was a wick. I wanted the second drive. I mean, even if this is a wick that I'm inside of now, this is a very it's very low risk. Look at that. Just gonna leave this here because it's interesting, not because I'm trading it. to be fair. And that's more valid as a sell at the moment. Because you've got these sells being backed up by that sell, and then you've got a bearish trend and a buy that could get squeezed. And then you've also got this big old low volume node here, which stuff. All right, how's this going? And again, this here, that is your ad, potentially. Like that. And that's because you've got the move that creates the break, you've got the low volume node within that move, you've got a wick into it, and then a continuation down. Could also be very wrong there. But so much of the time so much of the time the test of the low volume node is like almost nothing. We'll see how this closes. Chances are I might be playing it too tight on the stop, but I'm pretty confident with my analysis. Yeah, because we wanted to see that imbalance, that auction completed. We've also got all these orders here. But that should have satiated that magnetism. We'll see. I'm gonna let it play out now, however it wants to, because it meets my criteria. We've got a break outside the value area. We've got a retest of the low volume node. There is another low volume node up here, but that's also, yeah, I mean, I'm basing my trades off the fact that there's a big sell here. So I suppose there's a potential for a re-entry if we get stopped out and have to take it from here. But I wouldn't like that very much, because that's back at the edge of the value area for the range. Because if we break in here somewhere, I'm kind of thinking break that. Chop chop, straight up. Maybe this was the wick. Maybe the second drive isn't here. For me, this is the bit where I have to remember to breathe. I'm not seeing any more large orders, any more big trades so far. I suppose really it's whether obviously we've got low volume kind of all along here, so it's how much significance you choose to give it. See, I want to target the previous daily low really. Gold's moving down as well. Okay, we've got a sell in here, big order, which I presume is that on the so that means on my ad 25866. So I've put my ad to break even. Actually, pretty much everything's at break even now. So I've got so 1 to 2 will be there. We've kind of got a low volume node in here. So I'm actually going to put my actually no, I'm not. I'm going to leave the stuff of my ad because it's in the middle of that low volume node. That's where my ad is. But I'm going to leave it because I don't want risk. And then I'm going to move the all my stops to break even. Because I don't want to find opposing momentum. I mean, we've got some good, there's still some more big sales coming in now. And no big buy orders, no big individual buy orders that are like fighting it. It's just whether this needs a visit to go lower. I don't think it does, but I can be wrong. And that can be fine. If we break this low, I will move my stop to here because of this big trade. I want to make sure I'm guaranteed to be taking something. Oh. There we go. Okay. All my stops are in profit. I'm going to close one. All right. So I closed, yeah, one here. Close one here, and then the one I actually closed looked like this. It's these ones I've got running. And I'm going to put the previous day low as the target. Two, 5, 7, 11. Actually, I mean, that's pretty monster if it happens. 2, 5, 803. I'm just setting my take profits. So one of them is for this low volume node. So what? One TP here. What? And then another TP down here. And what I've done is I took 3 entries. So I had one here at this first wick. One here, and one here on the sell stop, and then I took another one here at the high volume node. Now we might come back and test the low volume. That might be what stops us out. If so, that's fine, because I took a good 1 to 2 in there, which is on this position here that I've closed. So it was actually like that. And then I've got this one running from my ad, as well as this one from my stop. So stop. Why have I got 3 of them now? I don't need them. So in terms of low volume, we have got this bit above this wick. I'm going to get rid of that, and this here. So we can quite easily revisit those before we do anything else or go lower. I'd quite like to see these cells protected, because that indicates that we're still the momentum is where we want it to be. We've got this here. Is that in that wick? No, it's not. So yeah, ideally we don't come higher than the wick here. Which is that. So I'm actually going to move my stops to there. Yeah, so what I've got is because of the zero print, or it's not a zero print, it's like an imbalance. It looks like we've come to fill the imbalance. If we can continue moving down, having visited the imbalance now, that would be healthy for a continuation. So I've got two stop losses. One is hit, and one is on the other one. I'm done. If we're out, as soon as we're out of this, I'm done. Yeah, that's one of them done. And that's the other one. Good trades. Yeah, so it's got some aggressive buys coming in now. At this low volume area. I mean, if they're met with more aggressive sells, then you could hop in again. So far, it's just buys. So we've got buys and sells in here, but the big order here is a buy. The big individual order. So that's an aggressive buy. If that then gets, like, if you then get an immediate aggressive sell, then that's could be valid. See, in the past, I'd have looked at this and I'd have definitely said, you know, you've got a break and then you've got a retest of the low volume node, and this is the entry. Yeah, especially on the 5 minute. And it might well be that, and it can be that. But so much of the time on these moves out of the value area on the NAS, what you find is that like in the entry here where I entered on this wick, you have the low volume node created, and then you have like one wick into it on like the next candle, and that's the retest. So a retest doesn't necessarily look like that. Yeah, it can just look like that, especially when you're scalping on the NAS 100, for example. Interesting quarter wood. Tempting continuation. If I saw like aggressive sellers, then I would be in here. And I would be like maybe I should be. I'm going to call it done. The book map suggests that everyone and their nan has their stop right here. So I mean, it makes sense. I just don't need to take it now. It's a logical continuation. If I had an aggressive sell or an aggressive buy followed immediately by an aggressive sell, then I would be in it. But we do have this. Right at the top. Let me have a look. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Alright. I'm done. Happy weekend.